May 14, 1943. 1,647 hours. Bay of Biscay, 47 degrees north 8 degrees west. The Beaufighter MKVIC that emerged from the cloud bank that afternoon carried a weapon the Kriegsmarine had never anticipated. A naval cannon mounted on an aircraft. What happened in the next 90 seconds would rewrite the rules of anti-submarine warfare and shatter Germany's confidence in the U-boat fleet that had nearly strangled Britain into submission. The statistical reality facing the Allies in early 1943 was stark and unforgiving. German U-boats were sinking merchant vessels faster than shipyards could replace them. In March 1943 alone, 108 Allied ships totaling 627,377 tons had been sent to the bottom of the Atlantic. Admiral Karl Donitz, commanding the U-boat fleet, called it the happy time, die Gluck-like sight. The mathematics of survival had become brutally simple. Britain required 1.2 million tons of supplies monthly to sustain the war effort. The U-boats were destroying an average of 650,000 tons per month. The tipping point approached with mechanical inevitability. The Bay of Biscay represented the critical vulnerability in Allied anti-submarine operations. Every U-boat departing from French Atlantic ports, Lorient, Saint-Nazaire, La Pallice, Bordeaux, had to transit these waters. Intelligence from Bletchley Park's cryptanalysis section, documented and declassified ultra-intercepts, confirmed that approximately 85% of operational U-boats passed through the Bay of Biscay corridor during deployment and return cycles. Coastal Command had attempted to exploit this choke point since 1940. The results, documented in Air Ministry records, told a story of frustration and failure. From January 1940 through December 1942, Coastal Command aircraft flew 87,439 anti-submarine sorties. They sighted 1,147 U-boats. They attacked 346 times. They confirmed only 12 kills. The problem was not courage or determination. Coastal Command crews flew grueling patrols in weather that grounded other commands, searching vast ocean expanses for targets that appeared only as fleeting disturbances on gray water. The problem was weapons. Standard anti-submarine aircraft carried depth charges, the Mark 8 weighing 250 pounds or the Mark 11 at 350 pounds. According to Admiralty weapons testing reports from HMS Vernon, these weapons required precise placement within 25 feet of a submerged U-boat to guarantee destruction. Against a crash-diving submarine, pilots had approximately 30 seconds from sighting to attack before the target reached safe depth. The tactical reality proved even more challenging. U-boats transiting the Bay of Biscay had developed counter-tactics documented in captured Kriegsmarine operational orders. Beginning in September 1942, standing order from BDU, Befehlshaber der U-Boot, commander of submarines, instructed U-boats to remain surfaced and fight back rather than crash dive when surprised by aircraft. The logic was sound. A Type WWII U-boat required 35 to 45 seconds to fully submerge from surface running. During this vulnerable period, the boat could neither maneuver effectively nor employ defensive weapons. But if the crew remained surfaced and manned their flak weapons, they presented a formidable defensive capability. Standard U-boat anti-aircraft armament, according to technical specifications from captured boats, had evolved significantly by 1943. The typical defensive suite included one 20mm C/30 cannon on the Wintergarten platform aft of the conning tower, capable of 280 rounds per minute effective to 2,200 yards. Twin 20mm C/38 mounts provided 900 rounds per minute combined rate of fire. Some boats carried the 37mm M42 automatic cannon with 160 rounds per minute to 4,800 yards effective range. Coastal Command aircraft approaching to drop depth charges had to descend to 50 feet altitude, reduce speed to approximately 180 knots, and maintain straight and level flight for the final attack run. During this approach, they flew directly into concentrated flak fire for 15 to 20 seconds, an eternity in combat time. The casualty statistics told the story. Air Ministry records document that from January through April 1943, Coastal Command lost 47 aircraft to U-boat defensive fire during anti-submarine operations. The exchange rate had become unsustainable. U-boats were killing Allied aircraft faster than aircraft were killing U-boats. Squadron Leader Terence Bullock, commanding 236th Squadron at Portreath, Cornwall, documented the tactical stalemate in his operational diary entry for April 18, 1943. "We sight them. They see us. We attack. They shoot back. We drop our charges. They submerge or shoot us down. Even when we achieve perfect placement, the bastards survive more often than not. We need a weapon that lets us kill them before they can kill us." The solution to Coastal Command's predicament came not from official channels but from an unauthorized field modification that violated every procurement regulation in the Air Ministry Handbook. The weapon that would break the U-boat defensive advantage was born from frustration, ingenuity, and a willingness to ignore the chain of command. Wing Commander Geoffrey Tuttle, serving as senior armament officer at RAF Drem in Scotland, had spent 2 years watching Coastal Command casualties mount. His personnel file, preserved in the National Archives, shows a decorated Great War veteran with engineering training from Imperial College London and a reputation for unconventional problem-solving that frequently annoyed his superiors. In January 1943, Tuttle attended a demonstration at the Armament Experimental Station in Submarines where the Royal Navy tested the Molins 6-pounder automatic gun, officially designated the QF 6-pounder 7 CWT. The weapon had been developed for anti-tank use, firing a 57mm projectile with a muzzle velocity of 2,950 feet per second. According to trial reports from Submarines, the Molins gun represented revolutionary technology. Unlike conventional artillery requiring manual reloading after each shot, the Molins employed an automatic feed mechanism capable of 55 rounds per minute sustained fire. The system used a 25-round magazine and could maintain accuracy to 2,000 yards. Tuttle's insight, documented in his personal correspondence preserved by his family and later donated to the Imperial War Museum, came from asking a question nobody at the demonstration had considered: what would happen if we mounted this naval gun on an aircraft and used it against submarines? The official response from the Air Ministry's Directorate of Armament Development, received on February 3, 1943, was unequivocal: the proposal to mount a 6-pounder cannon on an aircraft is technically impractical and operationally unsound. The weapon's weight, recoil forces, and ammunition requirements exceed parameters for aircraft installation. Request denied. Tuttle ignored them. Operating under the bureaucratic principle that asking forgiveness proves easier than obtaining permission, he initiated an unauthorized modification program at RAF Drem using a damaged Beaufighter MKVIC that had been written off as beyond economical repair. The Bristol Beaufighter represented one of the war's most versatile combat aircraft. Originally designed as a heavy fighter, the twin-engine aircraft combined the wing and rear fuselage of the Beaufort torpedo bomber with a new forward fuselage mounting heavy armament. Standard fighter versions carried 4 20mm Hispano cannons in the belly and 6.303 Browning machine guns in the wings. Technical specifications from Bristol Aircraft Company documents show the Beaufighter MKVIC, powered by 2 Bristol Hercules 6 radial engines producing 1,670 horsepower each, could achieve 330 miles per hour at 15,000 feet with a range of 1,750 miles. The aircraft's robust construction and powerful engines made it ideal for long-range maritime operations. Tuttle's engineering team, working with technicians from Rolls-Royce and civilian contractors from Vickers Armstrong, spent 6 weeks solving problems the Air Ministry insisted were impossible. The mounting structure required reinforcement of the entire forward fuselage. The 6-pounder gun weighed 1,340 pounds. The entire installation including mounting, ammunition feed, and fire control added 2,800 pounds to the aircraft's weight. Recoil forces presented the most significant challenge. Each 57mm round generated 8.5 tons of rearward force. The engineering solution involved mounting the gun on a sophisticated recoil absorption system with hydraulic buffers that distributed forces across the aircraft's structural framework. The installation required 437 separate modifications to the standard Beaufighter airframe. Ammunition capacity limited the weapon's sustained fire capability. The magazine held 25 rounds of 57mm ammunition, each projectile weighing 6.28 pounds. The automatic feed mechanism, adapted from the naval installation, could maintain the full 55 rounds per minute rate of fire for approximately 27 seconds before requiring reload. The ammunition itself came in 3 types, according to ordnance documentation from the Royal Arsenal Woolwich. Armor-piercing rounds featured hardened steel penetrators designed to punch through the 25mm pressure hull plating of Type 7 U-boats. High-explosive rounds contained 2.2 ounces of TNT for anti-personnel effect and surface damage. Practice rounds allowed training without expending combat ammunition. Initial test firing at the airgunnery range at Tain in northern Scotland nearly ended the project. The first burst, conducted on March 8, 1943, caused structural cracking in 3 fuselage frames. Tuttle's team spent another 2 weeks implementing additional reinforcement before the aircraft could safely fire sustained bursts. By late March 1943, the unauthorized prototype had completed flight testing. Performance data documented in test reports showed the modified Beaufighter maintained acceptable handling characteristics despite the additional weight. Maximum speed dropped to 305 miles per hour, but range and endurance remained within operational parameters for Bay of Biscay patrols. The tactical implications were revolutionary. The 6-pounder gun allowed engagement at ranges between 1,200 and 2,000 yards, far beyond the effective range of U-boat flak weapons. An aircraft could approach a surfaced submarine, open fire while still outside defensive range, and pump 20 to 25 armor-piercing or high-explosive rounds into the target before the U-boat crew could effectively respond. Air Commodore Jeffrey Bromet, Air Officer commanding 19 Group Coastal Command, witnessed a demonstration at Drem on April 2, 1943. His report to Air Chief Marshal Philip Joubert, Commander-in-Chief Coastal Command, stated simply, "This weapon changes everything. Every U-boat in the Bay of Biscay becomes vulnerable. Recommend immediate operational deployment." The Air Ministry, confronted with an unauthorized modification that violated procurement procedures but offered a potential solution to the U-boat crisis, faced a bureaucratic dilemma. Official approval would acknowledge that a junior officer had solved a problem senior officials insisted was impossible. The solution came through creative paperwork. On April 15, 1943, the Air Ministry issued a directive authorizing expedited field trials of experimental armament configurations for maritime strike operations. The document never mentioned that the trials involved a weapon already built, tested, and ready for combat. 236 Squadron at Portreath received orders on April 28, 1943, to accept delivery of 4 modified Beaufighters designated Tsetse, a name allegedly chosen because, like the African fly, they delivered a nasty sting. The official designation became Beaufighter TFMKX, though operational crews simply called them the Molins birds. May 14, 1943, began as another routine patrol for Flight Lieutenant Donald Kershaw and his navigator, Pilot Officer Raymond Fletcher. Their Beaufighter TFMKX, serial number JM135, lifted from Portreath's runway at 1,215 hours carrying a full load of 57mm ammunition and enough fuel for a 5-hour patrol of the Bay of Biscay hunting grounds. Squadron records preserved at the RAF Museum Hendon document that 236 Squadron had flown 8 previous patrols with the Molins-equipped aircraft without sighting a single U-boat. The tactical advantage of the long-range cannon meant nothing if they couldn't find targets. The Bay of Biscay covered approximately 86,000 square miles. Finding a submarine in that expanse required equal parts skill, intelligence, and luck. The intelligence component came from ultra-decrypts of German naval Enigma communications. Bletchley Park had broken the Kriegsmarine's Triton cipher in December 1942, providing Coastal Command with unprecedented insight into U-boat movements. Though operational security prevented crews from knowing the source, they received routing guidance that positioned patrols along probable U-boat transit paths. At 1,647 hours, Fletcher spotted a surface contact bearing 215 degrees relative, range estimated at 8 miles. Through binoculars, the distinctive silhouette of a Type WWII U-boat became visible, running on the surface at approximately 12 knots on a southwesterly heading. The submarine showed no indication of having detected the approaching Beaufighter. Kershaw's combat report, filed after the mission and preserved in operational records, described the tactical approach: descended to 50 feet maintaining position in sun relative to target. At 2,000 yards range, target lookouts spotted us. Observed crew rushing to anti-aircraft positions on conning tower. Commenced firing run at 1,800 yards range. What happened next represented the tactical revolution the Molins gun had promised. At ranges where U-boat flak weapons could barely reach the attacking aircraft, the 57mm cannon delivered devastating accuracy. The first burst of 4 rounds struck the conning tower, the armor-piercing projectiles punching through the 25mm steel plating as if it were cardboard. The second burst, 5 rounds in rapid succession, walked along the pressure hull forward of the tower. Each 6.28-pound projectile carried enough kinetic energy at 2,950 feet per second muzzle velocity to penetrate the submarine's outer hull and damage internal systems. The effect resembled a giant hammer striking the submarine's pressure vessel. German records recovered after the war, cross-referenced with ultra-intercepts, identified the target as U-456, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Max Teichert. The boat had departed La Pallas on May 12 for operations in the North Atlantic. The engagement lasted approximately 90 seconds from first contact to the submarine's loss. Kershaw's combat report continued, observed catastrophic damage to conning tower and forward hull. Target immediately began settling by the bow with pronounced list to port. Secondary explosions visible amidships, likely fuel or battery compartment. Target sank by the bow at 1,649 hours. Observed approximately 15 survivors in the water. Transmitted position to air-sea rescue coordination. Ammunition expended, 21 rounds 57mm. The significance of this engagement extended far beyond a single U-boat kill. For the first time, an aircraft had destroyed a fully surfaced, combat-ready submarine from beyond the effective range of its defensive weapons. The tactical advantage U-boats had gained by remaining surfaced and fighting back had been completely negated. Air-sea rescue units recovered 12 survivors from U-456, including Teichert. Their interrogation reports, filed by the Combined Services Detailed Interrogation Center at Cockfosters, provided crucial intelligence about German perspectives on the new weapon. Teichert stated, "We maintained surface action stations as ordered. Our flak crews engaged the aircraft at maximum range. Before we could effectively defend ourselves, the Beaufighter opened fire with what appeared to be naval-caliber weapons. The shells struck with tremendous force. We had no defense against this attack profile." The sinking of U-456 sent shockwaves through both Allied and German naval commands. At Coastal Command headquarters, Air Chief Marshal John Slessor, who had replaced Joubert in February 1943, immediately ordered accelerated production and deployment of Molins-equipped Beaufighters. His directive dated May 16, 1943, stated, "The 57mm cannon installation has proven decisive. Require maximum priority for production and squadron conversion." The German reaction, documented in BDU War Diary entries decoded through ultra-intercepts, revealed confusion and concern. Donut's operations staff initially dismissed reports of aircraft-mounted heavy-caliber weapons as impossible or exaggerated by traumatized survivors. The tactical reality that aircraft could now engage U-boats at ranges exceeding defensive capabilities contradicted their operational assumptions. Within 48 hours of Kershaw's success, 236 Squadron achieved 2 additional kills. On May 16, Flight Lieutenant Arthur Phillips engaged U-463, a Type 14 supply submarine known as a milchkuh, milk cow, northwest of Cape Ortegal. The large supply submarine, displacing 1,688 tons surfaced and heavily laden with fuel and supplies, presented an ideal target for the Molins gun. Phillips' combat report described firing 19 rounds from 1,600 yards range. The armor-piercing shells penetrated the supply submarine's larger but thinner pressure hull, causing massive flooding. U-463 sank in less than 3 minutes with only 4 survivors from a crew of 52. May 18 brought another engagement. Flying Officer Harold Vaughn encountered U-441, which had been specially modified with enhanced anti-aircraft armament including quadruple 20mm mounts. The submarine's commander, Captain Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann, had received specific orders to aggressively engage Allied aircraft as part of a new defensive doctrine. U-441's enhanced Flak suite made no difference. Vaughn opened fire at 1,900 yards, well beyond effective range of the submarine's weapons. The first burst disabled the forward flak position, killing or wounding most of the crew. Subsequent rounds penetrated the pressure hull forward of the conning tower. The submarine attempted to crash dive but progressive flooding prevented submergence. U-441 sank sternfirst at 1,034 hours with 23 survivors recovered. 3 confirmed U-boat kills in 4 days represented more successful anti-submarine engagements than Coastal Command typically achieved in 3 months. The statistical impact appeared immediately in operational analysis reports. The exchange ratio had reversed. Aircraft were now killing submarines at a rate that made surface transit of the Bay of Biscay untenable for U-boats. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The sinking of 3 U-boats in 4 days triggered an emergency response from BDU headquarters in Berlin. Admiral Dönitz convened his staff on May 19, 1943, to address what German naval intelligence designated as the long-range aircraft cannon problem. Minutes from this meeting, captured after the war and preserved in the Bundesarchiv Militararchiv, reveal the depth of German concern. Korvettenkapitän Gunter Hessler, Dönitz's son-in-law and chief operational analyst, presented the tactical assessment: Allied aircraft have achieved standoff capability against our surface vessels. The weapon appears to be a large-caliber automatic cannon, possibly 40 mm or larger, with effective range exceeding 1,500 meters. Our current defensive armament cannot engage targets at these ranges with sufficient accuracy or volume of fire. The mathematical reality was inescapable. U-boat flak weapons effective to 2,000 yards faced aircraft weapons accurate to 2,000 yards. But aircraft traveled at 300 miles per hour while U-boats managed 17 knots surfaced. The speed differential meant aircraft could choose engagement range, attacking from distances where submarine gunners could barely track their targets while the aircraft delivered precise aimed fire. Dönitz issued immediate tactical directives documented in BDU Standing Order 483, transmitted to all U-boats on May 20, 1943. The order represented a complete reversal of previous doctrine: all boats will crash dive immediately upon aircraft contact. The previous standing order to remain surfaced and fight is rescinded. Surface transit of Bay of Biscay will be conducted only at night or in conditions of reduced visibility. The tactical retreat came too late. Coastal Command had already adjusted patrol schedules to maximize coverage during prime U-boat transit periods. Air Ministry records show that by late May 1943, 6 squadrons operated Molins-equipped Beaufighters, with more entering service weekly. The production priority, documented in Ministry of Aircraft production files, had elevated the Beaufighter TFMKX to the highest manufacturing category. German technical intelligence struggled to understand the new weapon. Interrogation reports from survivors consistently described very large caliber cannon shells but couldn't provide precise specifications. The Kriegsmarine technical branch, lacking captured examples, could only estimate capabilities based on observed damage and survivor testimony. Fregattenkapitän Werner Hartenstein, commanding U-156, provided detailed observations in his patrol report after a near-miss engagement on May 24. His boat had been surprised by a Beaufighter while transiting surfaced 150 miles west of Cape Finisterre. The combat report, decoded by Allied intelligence, described aircraft opened fire at extreme range with what appeared to be naval-caliber weapons. multiple large-caliber impacts observed in sea approximately 50 meters from boat. Crash dived immediately. Heard multiple underwater detonations during descent. Emerged after dark to assess damage. Found 3 shell fragments on deck, appeared to be 50 to 60 millimeters diameter, armor-piercing type construction. The fragments Hartenstein recovered provided the first physical evidence of the weapon. German metallurgical analysis, documented in Kriegsmarine technical reports, confirmed British manufacture and estimated 57mm caliber. But knowing what weapon they faced did nothing to solve the tactical problem of defending against it. The German response evolved through 3 increasingly desperate phases, all documented in captured technical and operational orders. Phase 1 involved enhanced anti-aircraft armament. Beginning in late May 1943, U-boats returning to French ports received installation of additional flak weapons during refit cycles. The standard modification, designated flak U-boot conversion, added quadruple 20mm C/38 mounts and upgraded the forward position to a 37mm M42. Some boats received experimental installations including twin 37mm mounts. U-441, already mentioned, represented an extreme example with 8 20mm cannon and 1 37mm, making it one of the most heavily armed U-boats in the fleet. Technical specifications from Kriegswerft Lorient showed these modifications added 12 to 15 tons of top weight, reducing underwater performance and surface speed while requiring additional crew to man the weapons. The modifications also increased surface detection profile and fuel consumption, reducing operational range. Phase 2 involved tactical formations. BDU Operational Order 502, issued June 3, 1943, directed U-boats to transit the Bay of Biscay in groups of 3 to 4 boats, maintaining visual contact and providing mutual anti-aircraft support. The concept, designated Rütteltaktik Luft, Pack Tactics Air, theorized that concentrated flak from multiple boats would overwhelm attacking aircraft. The first test of group transit tactics occurred on June 12, 1943. For U-boats, U-68, U-155, U-172, and U-504 formed up southwest of Belle Isle for coordinated transit. Coastal Command radar detected the formation at 0847 hours. Within 2 hours, 5 Beaufighters from 248 Squadron arrived overhead. The engagement, documented in both RAF combat reports and decoded German after-action reports, demonstrated the futility of group tactics against aircraft with standoff weapons. The Beaufighters attacked from different quadrants simultaneously, each engaging from beyond effective flak range. The concentrated return fire from 4 U-boats created an impressive but ineffective barrage that couldn't reach the attacking aircraft. U-504, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Fritz Posk, took multiple 57mm hits that penetrated the pressure hull and disabled the diesel engines. The boat remained afloat but could neither dive nor maneuver. U-155 attempted to take U-504 under tow but was itself damaged by a follow-up attack from 236 Squadron Beaufighters. Both submarines were eventually abandoned and scuttled, with destroyers from the 2nd Support Group recovering 87 survivors. Phase 3 represented German desperation, the Wanze system. This experimental radar detection receiver, developed by Telefunken and rushed into production in June 1943, attempted to provide U-boats with early warning of approaching radar-equipped aircraft. Technical documentation from captured examples showed the Wanze could detect ASV Mark II radar emissions at ranges up to 30 km under optimal conditions. The system installation instructions, translated by Allied Technical Intelligence, revealed its limitations. The Wanze required external antennas mounted on the conning tower, increasing radar cross-section. The receiver provided only crude directional indication and couldn't determine range or number of contacts. Most critically, it detected only the specific radar type it was designed to recognize. Coastal Command responded by varying radar usage patterns and introducing new radar types. The ASV Mark III centimetric radar, entering service in mid-1943, operated on wavelengths the Wanze couldn't detect. German technical intelligence didn't discover this limitation until September 1943, by which time dozens of boats relying on Wanze warnings had been caught by surprise. The statistical impact of the Molins-equipped Beaufighters appeared starkly in Admiralty anti-submarine warfare analysis. From May 14 through June 30, 1943, Coastal Command aircraft destroyed 17 U-boats in the Bay of Biscay. Beaufighter TFMKX aircraft were responsible for 11 of these kills, 65% of the total despite comprising only 8% of patrol aircraft. The loss rate forced a German strategic reassessment. BDU War Diary entries from late June 1943, decoded through Ultra, revealed that Donitz considered suspending all Bay of Biscay daylight transit. The proposal met resistance from operational commanders who argued this would reduce U-boat operational effectiveness by 30 to 40% due to increased transit times and reduced time on patrol stations. The Compromise Directive, Operational Order 531 dated July 1, 1943, established new transit protocols, all Bay of Biscay transit to occur during darkness or heavy weather conditions only. Boats were authorized to delay deployments by up to 5 days waiting for suitable weather windows. Commanders were explicitly forbidden to remain surfaced if surprised by aircraft, regardless of circumstances. These measures reduced but didn't eliminate losses. Coastal Command adjusted patrol schedules to maximize coverage during twilight periods when U-boats transitioning between night surface running and daytime submerged transit were most vulnerable. Aircraft equipped with Lee lights, powerful searchlights for nocturnal attacks, combined with Molins guns created a 24-hour threat. The psychological impact on U-boat crews, documented in post-war interrogations and contemporary patrol reports, proved as significant as the physical destruction. Veteran submariners who had survived years of Atlantic combat found themselves terrorized by aircraft that could destroy them from ranges where they couldn't fight back effectively. Oberleutnant Zur C. Herbert Werner, serving aboard U-230, described the atmosphere in his post-war memoir, "We had always feared aircraft, but we believed we could fight them. The new British Cannon aircraft changed that. We couldn't fight what we couldn't reach. Every surface transit became a gamble with death. Crews that had faced depth charges with stoic courage became nervous wrecks at the sound of aircraft engines." July 1943 marked the operational zenith of the Molins-equipped Beaufighters and the nadir of German U-boat effectiveness in the Bay of Biscay. Coastal Command had refined tactics, increased aircraft numbers, and established what operational planners termed air supremacy over the transit zones. The statistical evidence, compiled in weekly anti-submarine warfare summaries, told an unambiguous story of German defeat. Flight Lieutenant Dennis Roland, commanding B Flight of 236 Squadron, exemplified the new breed of anti-submarine hunter. His combat record, documented in squadron operational records, showed 7 confirmed U-boat attacks between May 23 and July 18, resulting in 4 confirmed sinkings and 2 probables. His tactical innovations, shared through Coastal Command tactical bulletins, became standard doctrine for Molins operations. Roland's approach, detailed in a tactical memorandum dated June 15, 1943, emphasized patience and precision. The advantage of the 57mm cannon is wasted if used at excessive range. Optimal engagement occurs between 1,200 and 1,600 yards where accuracy remains high while remaining outside effective flak range. First burst should target the conning tower to disable command personnel and flak crews. Subsequent fire should walk along the pressure hull to maximize structural damage and flooding. The engagement on July 8, 1943, demonstrated these tactics with devastating effect. Roland's crew, including navigator pilot officer Timothy Hayes and wireless operator Sergeant Arthur Donaldson, departed Portreath at 0545 hours for what would become one of the war's most thoroughly documented anti-submarine actions. At 0814 hours, radar contact at 18 miles range indicated a surface target on reciprocal course. Visual identification confirmed U-607, a Type VIIC commanded by Oberleutnant Zur C. Ernst Mengerson, running surfaced at maximum speed toward the Spanish coast. Intelligence analysis later revealed that U-607 had been damaged during a depth charge attack by destroyer HMS Wanderer 2 days earlier and was attempting to reach port for repairs. Rowland's combat report, filed at 1,345 hours after mission completion, provided minute-by-minute detail. 0816, commenced attack approach from starboard quarter, descending to 100 feet altitude. Target maintained course, increased speed, crew manning anti-aircraft positions. 0818, at 1,400 yards range, commenced firing. First burst, for rounds, observed strikes on conning tower. Observed personnel casualties and damage to forward flak position. The wireless log maintained by Donaldson documented the engagement with timestamps, 0818:23, firing commenced. 0818:35, request backup aircraft, target heavily damaged but still mobile. 0819:12, target attempting crash dive. 0819:34, target bow submerged, stern elevated, severe flooding evident. The engagement consumed 23 rounds of 57mm ammunition over approximately 90 seconds of sustained fire. Post-attack reconnaissance by a following Sunderland flying boat from 461 Squadron confirmed U-607's loss at position 44 degrees 17 minutes north 7 degrees 32 minutes west. No survivors were recovered. German records identified 49 crew lost with the boat. What made this engagement particularly significant was the presence of combat camera unit photographer Flight Sergeant William Ashton aboard Rowland's aircraft. The resulting gun camera footage and still photographs, preserved in the Imperial War Museum Film Archive, provided unprecedented documentation of Molins' gun effectiveness against submarine targets. The imagery showed 57mm rounds striking the U-boat's conning tower and pressure hull, the armor-piercing projectiles penetrating clean through the submarine's structure. Subsequent frames documented progressive flooding, the submarine's bow dipping beneath the surface while the stern rose at an increasingly steep angle. The final frames captured the submarine's propellers still turning as the boat slid beneath the waves. This footage became a training tool throughout Coastal Command and featured in classified tactical instruction films. Intelligence analysts from the Admiralty's submarine tracking room studied the sequences to better understand submarine structural vulnerabilities and optimal weapon placement. The success rate of Molins-equipped Beaufighters during July 1943 approached levels that modern analysts find difficult to credit. Official Coastal Command statistics, compiled by the Operational Research Section and preserved in Air Ministry records, documented 34 attacks by Beaufighter TFMKX aircraft during the month. These engagements resulted in 14 confirmed sinkings, 8 probable sinkings, and 7 boats severely damaged and forced to abort patrols. The 41% confirmed kill rate per attack represented a revolutionary improvement over historical anti-submarine warfare effectiveness. For comparison, the overall Coastal Command attack-to-kill ratio for 1940 to 1942 averaged 3.4%, meaning approximately 29 attacks were required to achieve 1 confirmed U-boat sinking. German responses grew increasingly desperate and tactically incoherent. BDU operational orders from mid-July, preserved in captured signal logs, contradicted previous directives within days of issue. July 14 ordered increased flak armament and aggressive surface defense. July 19 rescinded this and mandated immediate crash diving on all air contacts. July 23 authorized commanders to use their own judgment based on circumstances. The confusion reflected genuine strategic paralysis. Every available counter-tactic had failed. Enhanced flak armament added weight and reduced performance without preventing attacks. Group transit tactics provided more targets for coordinated aircraft attacks. Radar detectors gave inconsistent warnings. Night transit reduced losses but decreased operational effectiveness. Weather-dependent transit schedules created port congestion and reduced patrol time. Captain Zur C. Eberhard Gott, Chief of Operations at BDU Headquarters, summarized the dilemma in his staff conference notes from July 28, 1943. We face a tactical problem with no satisfactory solution. aircraft with long-range cannon can engage our boats at ranges where effective defense is impossible. Every countermeasure we implement carries operational penalties that reduce effectiveness. We are losing the Bay of Biscay. The human cost of this tactical revolution appeared starkly in casualty statistics. During June and July 1943, 47 U-boats were lost to all causes in all theaters. Of these, 19 were destroyed in the Bay of Biscay, primarily by aircraft attack. The 40% loss rate in a geographic area representing less than 10% of operational zones fundamentally altered German strategic calculations. Individual boat losses told stories of skilled crews destroyed by technology that negated training and courage. U-951, commanded by the experienced Captain Lieutenant Karl-Heinz Marbach, was caught surfaced on July 7 by a 248 Squadron Beaufighter. Despite aggressive evasive maneuvering and heavy return fire from upgraded flak weapons, U-951 took multiple 57mm hits that penetrated the control room. The boat sank in less than 3 minutes with only 7 survivors from a crew of 46. U-506, a Type IXC long-range boat returning from successful patrols in the Caribbean, was destroyed on July 12 within sight of the French coast. The crew had survived depth charge attacks by 3 different destroyer groups during their homeward transit, only to be caught and destroyed by a Molins Beaufighter 40 miles from safety. The engagement lasted less than 2 minutes. There were no survivors from the 53-man crew. The psychological toll on surviving U-boat crews manifested in decreased combat effectiveness and increased stress casualties. Medical reports from U-boat bases, captured after the liberation of France, documented significant increases in combat fatigue, stress-related disorders, and psychiatric evacuations during mid-1943. Flotilla Nurse Dr. Hans-Joachim Schiller, Chief Medical Officer at the 10th U-Boat Flotilla at WWII, reported in August 1943, "We observe unprecedented psychological casualties among returning crews. Men who performed effectively on patrol exhibit severe anxiety regarding Bay of Biscay transit. Several experienced petty officers have requested transfer to shore duty rather than face another crossing. The weapon the British employ has created a fear factor unlike anything we encountered previously." The success of the Molins-equipped Beaufighters triggered a technological response that extended far beyond the Bay of Biscay. Both Allied and German naval commands recognized that the fundamental equation of anti-submarine warfare had changed. The race to develop countermeasures and enhanced capabilities accelerated through the latter half of 1943, driving innovations that would influence naval warfare for decades. At the Royal Aircraft Establishment in Farnborough, weapons development teams initiated Project Highball in August 1943, exploring advanced anti-submarine weapons that could exploit the Beaufighter's proven airframe. Engineering documentation preserved in the National Archives shows parallel development tracks pursuing rocket-assisted projectiles, improved fire control systems, and enhanced armor-piercing ammunition. The Mark II armor-piercing round, entering service in September 1943, incorporated tungsten carbide penetrators and improved ballistic profiles. Weapons testing at Submarines demonstrated 40% increased penetration compared to original ammunition. Field trials documented in Coastal Command tactical bulletins showed the enhanced rounds could penetrate U-boat pressure holes at steeper angles, significantly improving lethality. Squadron leader David Atcherley, commanding 254 Squadron's Beaufighter flight, submitted detailed feedback after the first combat employment of Mark II ammunition on September 18, 1943. Enhanced penetration rounds proved devastatingly effective against U-714. Observed complete through penetration of pressure hole with exit holes visible on far side of boat. Target sank in less than 60 seconds after 8-round burst. Recommend immediate fleet-wide adoption. The fire control improvements, designated the Mark IX automatic gun sight, provided computerized lead calculation for moving targets. The system, developed by Ferranti Limited and documented in technical manuals from the Air Ministry's Directorate of Air Armament, automatically calculated deflection angle, range compensation, and ballistic drop based on target speed, course, and range inputs. Installation of the Mark IX sight required significant aircraft modifications. The computing system occupied space in the navigator's position and required electrical power from a dedicated generator. Despite the complexity, operational trials demonstrated 35% improvement in first burst hit probability, a critical advantage in combat where targets had mere seconds to react. Flight Lieutenant Bernard Cole, serving with 248 Squadron, provided operational assessment in his report dated October 3, 1943. The automated sight removes much guesswork from deflection shooting. Against maneuvering targets, the system accounts for variables no pilot could calculate mentally during combat. We're hitting with first bursts at ranges previously requiring multiple correction passes. German technical intelligence, meanwhile, struggled to develop effective countermeasures. Captured documents from Kriegsmarine testing facilities at Gotenhafen reveal multiple parallel development programs, none achieving satisfactory results before war's end. The most promising German response, the Lübeck system, attempted to provide automated threat warning and fire control for enhanced flak weapons. The story of Germany's shock at encountering the Beaufighter's long-range punch reminds us that warfare constantly evolves through technological innovation, tactical adaptation, and human courage. The weapon nobody officially requested, developed through unauthorized modification, proved decisive in one of World War II's most critical campaigns. It stands as enduring proof that creative problem-solving and willingness to challenge conventional wisdom can overcome seemingly insurmountable tactical challenges. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.